Hello there, welcome to the lesson from the Focus book, Discover, Connect, Achieve, Untangle Your Confusion and Find Success. In this video we're going to look at the third principle here on page 28, and because it's very short I'm actually going to read it out. But the picture for this chapter is this one: awareness, choose wisely. And what we're going to look at here is the idea that our awareness is incredibly powerful, which is why if you understand how to master your focus, it's your most important life skill, because if you can master your focus, you then know how to move your awareness around, because what your awareness will do is make whatever you're engaging with alive and real. And it is that simple, but it's also that profound. So I've put a little chapter in just to look at that fact, and I've called it the third principle, and I'm going to read it out. I'll read it out and then I'll comment. The third principle: now you know how focus works, you have the foundations to use an incredibly powerful tool. But before we look at this, I would like to pause to consider what part our awareness plays in this framework. Awareness is really where the power lies within a human being. As we have suggested in earlier chapters, once you become aware of something, it tends to become alive and real. It is what makes us unique creatures and allows us to create and build the world we live in by simply spending time and energy on what we notice and want to achieve. Focus guides your awareness, which is why it is so important. It is like the machine that directs the laser beam. You choose what your laser beam is directed towards, and then, bang! The event you are engaging with becomes large and real. We know that you cannot control outside events, but you can control your decisions about what happens and about what you notice. The power you hold is literally boundless, and all you need to do is to learn how to harness this for your own good. So let's just let that sink in for a minute. Your awareness is what makes things alive and real. I'm just going to look at that a little bit more. What that doesn't mean is what you don't notice doesn't exist. That's just rubbish. So what I'm not saying is what I don't notice isn't there. Now it is there. It is there. Okay? There's stuff around us everywhere. And just because we don't notice it doesn't mean it's not there. It is there. However, how we deal with what is there is to do with our focus. And what we do with our focus, as I've said, means we become very aware of something because we're giving it attention. And when we give it attention, we're giving it time, we're giving it energy, and we're making it alive and real. And over time it becomes bigger. And that's the true magic of being a human being. But what moves that focus around are our choices. So we need to understand that we choose what we focus on, which is why this book is so important, because it shows you how to master your focus. Because a lot of people don't know that at all, of course. You're not taught it. So this book is teaching you how to master your focus, which really basically is about understanding the difference between the mind and who you are, really. However, once you master your focus, you then know what to do with your attention. And once you start to learn what to do with your attention, you start to notice things and start to engage with things. You start to make them become alive and real, and over time large. So this is how you have a phenomenal effect on the world around you in the end, because what you give attention to becomes alive and real. Anything you want is got there. It is anything you want, but be careful, because choose wisely. Choose wisely, because whatever you do will become large and real. So you need to make sure that this isn't necessarily about good and bad, but what it is about your life experience. So sometimes, as we've talked about, it's quite difficult to give attention to something that's hard. You know, if you're connected to someone and they're suffering, that's very hard. That's very hard. Sometimes it's difficult to keep being in that focus, you know, and there's no judgment, there's no right or wrong. You know, if it's too much, then people often focus on something else. So to avoid suffering and to avoid giving attention to things that make them feel bad, they will often focus on something else, like scrolling on Facebook, playing computer games, going down the pub, drinking, having an affair, etc. I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's the way we work. If we can't focus on stuff because it's too painful, people tend to change their focus. What we say in this book, but what we really delve into deeply in the Energy Dynamic Model Academy, is how to build up resilience enough so we become, in the end, so resilient we can then give attention to things that are very difficult. Okay, so there's no judgment there, but the point is that what you focus on will become large and real. Now, as a parent with a child, that's great news, because if you start to guide your child as to how to master their focus and how to understand who they are, etc., very soon the child will start to make things around them large and real that are in line with themselves, that make them feel really good. Their mind will calm down because they'll feel really resilient and strong. And it's not that difficult. It's really not that difficult. So this is why I think it's so important for children and young people to learn how to do this, because once you learn how to do it, you can carve a really good life experience out for yourself. Okay, so there we go. Awareness, what you focus on, and you create a life experience that you focus on, and let's make it something that's pleasant. Yeah. So that's the end of that chapter. It's also the end of the information part of the book, and what we're going to do next is to look at the internal roadmap, okay, which is a learning resource that you can use to track where you are within yourself, so you know how to focus, and you become more aware of how to switch your focus, which is really important too. So thank you very much.